We're getting high and low with the Inventor and discovering the origin of Ricky Stanicky. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
So, hello and welcome back to the show. It's a very special show today, not because we're doing anything special, but because it is... Oh, I'll let you say it, Van. I can't do it. I can't steal your thunder.
It is our 400th, and of course we're doing special things. We're talking about John Cena. There's always special for me. But yeah, 400 episodes we've done of this now. And
crazy.
Yeah, I remember the very first week was the big film that week was the first Jurassic World. That tells you how long ago that was. So
wow. And think about how many movies you have absolutely hated from them until now.
Do you know what? I did learn this week that there are 42 million minutes in the average human lifespan, average British lifespan, and I did try to think of, geez, how many million hours have I squandered on terrible movies? But do you know what? Worth it.
Worth it, just so that you can tell everyone they're terrible movies, of course. But yeah,
hopefully we spared other people them. That's what it is. Hopefully, some people have turned away from bad movies, based on having been told that they're absolutely dreadful. And also, happy Oscar week, by the way. It's Oscar week this week. By the time this goes out, will be about. But this is going to go out about 48 hours before the Oppenheimer Oscars, as I'm starting to think of it.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens there, and I'm sure we'll be chatting about that next week, won't we? But yeah, for now, welcome, and let's crack on with the movies that Van's seen and he's going to tell us about. So we've got The Inventor in a bit, we've got Ricky Stanicky as well that we're going to talk about, and High and Low, John Galliano. Did I get all the pronunciations right there?
Galliano, I believe, according to...
all right.
Galliano, I think. But yes, you did get Ricky Stanicky on the first go, which was good. Well done, Adam.
Oh, thank you. I knew there'd be one that I'd mess up, but hey. Let's start with Origin, because I quite like the look of this. This is the sort of movie I could dive into, actually, and get sucked in.
I'll be really honest, based on the plot synopsis, I was on the same page. I'm like, that sounds good. I mean, John Bernthal's in it as well. Like, awesome. Yeah. Because you've got my money. As soon as you hire John Bernthal, you've kind of got my money to an extent. But yeah, new movie from Ava DuVernay, director of, I think it was it 13? The one about I think it was 13, about the death row inmates, and of course Wrinkle in Time quite recently as well. And this is based on the novel of the same name. I think it's Origin, and it's about the caste system by Isabel Wilkerson. Rather than adapt that text, however, this is not that kind of adaptation. This is actually a more dramatized narrative about Wilkerson herself as she sets out amidst numerous personal tragedies in her life. The passing of several people close to her in her life, she finds herself, on this quest to explore the rigors of the caste system and how they factor into institutionalized racism and general bigotry in the contemporary United States. And this all starts about because of the unfortunate killing of Trayvon Martin, which I think was 2011 or 2012, and starts with her being asked to do that and then going on this personal odyssey. I've got a clip for you.
I want to be in the story, really inside the story, and build a thesis that shows how all of this is linked.
I gotta be honest with you, I don't understand. I don't see it.
You go and write your stories. Folks need to know about this.
You're trying to make sense of racism, but your thesis is flawed.
It was all lies. They knew we weren't inferior. You don't escape trauma by ignoring it.
See, on paper, and after watching the trailer for this does seem to me like a movie. I mean, it looks fantastic from what I can see in the trailer. And also I feel like it does, doesn't it? And I feel like it's something that's quite a thought-provoking movie where you walk away and it leaves you thinking a lot.
Yeah, I mean, my problem with it was all thought, but very little feeling, I thought. And it is about this, I mean, great performance from Ingenue Ellis in the lead there as the fictionalized Wilkerson. Her husband is the the John Bernthal role. He plays Wilkerson's husband. The fact they are a mixed-race couple does actually come into play at different stages as well. But it was all thought and no feeling. Great performance, but I wasn't really sold on the emotional side of this. And I think I was more being bombarded with different... There's a disparate cutting between subplots as well. We're shown as an ongoing story, for instance, that features is set during Nazi Germany and tells the story of a Jewish woman and her German Nazi Party member partner and their prejudice as well. And we get these different, very jarring cuts that, for the longest time, I mean, don't seem to have any relevance or depth beyond them being stories of bigotry. But there's no connective tissue. You don't really feel that connective tissue and that emotional weight that would bring. But as I say, I was really taken in by Ingenue Ellis's performance. The ideas that it deals with are really interesting. I sat there, I was captivated by things I was learning. I never knew, for instance, that in constructing the final solution, that the Nazi Party had actually referred to American Jim Crow laws for inspiration, and that Hitler was inspired by the American extermination of Native Americans, which... I had no idea about that, if I'm really honest, and things like that. I'm like, wow, this is really profound stuff. Like, I'm really learning things here. But I was not taking it on an emotional level, other than obviously, feeling that the anger and vitriol, the injustice of everything being going on. But there is, I think, a great cast being squandered here. And it does include, Ellis and Bernthal and Victoria Pedretti, actually, from the Netflix series You. If you've ever seen that.
Yeah, loved it.
I think she played Love, the hot nutter. I think she was Love, but yeah, I think the performances are great in spite of a movie that doesn't really make you feel what it should. But it's quite a long film as well. It does clock in over 2 hours, I think about 2:20 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not good when it's a movie you're not really enjoying, Van.
Well, that's to say, I mean, I came out of it. I was talking to Maria Duarte. We just came out of Soho House watching this, and we were wandering over to Universal for the screening of The Inventor, and she said, "Did you enjoy that?" I went, "I don't think enjoy is the right word, if I'm honest. To be fair, I don't think it's trying to sell you on a good time by any measure. It's not something you enjoy. It is something you absorb and are taken by. But I think if you're going into this expecting to really feel feelings with this, beyond certain negative ones, obviously, I think you're being left wanting, I think.
Okay, well, if you do want to check it out, it's in cinemas from today, and it's called Origin. All right, you just mentioned it then, The Inventor. Let's see what Van thought of that in just a second. We'll be back. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. Let's plod straight into our next movie. So this is an animated movie called The Inventor, which is also out in cinemas from today. I have noticed that whilst looking at the IMDb page for this, that most of the names with people involved are French.
Yes, indeed. This, believe it or not, it sounds nuts when I say this out loud. So first of all, I think it's a French-made English language film. It is a biopic of sorts for Leonardo da Vinci. Yes.
Wow.
And not only is it animated, it's got stop motion in it. It's got stop motion elements as well as traditional 2D animation. Very differing animated styles. So it actually has quite a variety of different styles at different times. It stars the voice talents of Stephen Fry as Leonardo da Vinci.
Amazing.
Yeah, you've got my money there, right? Wait.
Yeah.
Stephen Fry is just okay. 5 stars. Take my money. Let's call it a day while we're messing around. Right, it's very much one of those. It's also got amongst its cast Marion Cotillard, Daisy Ridley, who voices Da Vinci's love interest Marguerite, and as Pope Leo X, the one, the only Matt Berry, who you'll hear in the clip in a moment. I'm a huge Matt Berry fan, from IT Crowd, What We Do in the Shadows, Toast. I love Matt Berry. But it's the story of Da Vinci's ire, his displeasure at being forced to work under the rule of the Pope, who is stifling his studies, his attempts to explore, for instance, the science of the human body and try and ascertain, is there such a thing as a soul, for instance, is something he's trying to solve. And the Pope, of course, objects to all of these because he sees it as a smite in the face of God. However, the Pope is not his problem for much longer, as he is summoned to France to work for the king, who it turns out is a bit of a fan of his. And the king sets about trying to get Leonardo to help design his revolutionary new castle. Da Vinci himself, however, would rather set his designs on an entire city, something he's then spurred along in his aspirations toward by the Lady Marguerite, who, as I say, is voiced by Daisy Ridley. So have a listen.
Now, the world has never been easy, even for those with a rather big brain.
He's crazy.
There will always be nonsensical naysayers on an anti-adventure campaign.
Why can't you just be satisfied with painting pretty things?
Oh, not this again.
Cheer up, Maestro. We will help you.
So I set off to prove my point.
Creating a city of ideas is so extraordinary.
With friends along for the ride. On the road to fortune and fame. And an adventure full of pride.
Oh, shoot.
Do you know, there's something kind of cosy and familiar about Stephen Fry's voice, isn't there?
There always is, and I love Stephen Fry. And to be fair, this is a really lovely film. Like, you're really charmed by this film quite quickly. It has a really unique look. It has a very distinct sort of aesthetic. Like I say, it does combine different styles of animation as well. So, you get the stop motion, you get traditional, like, hand-drawn animation as well, things like that. Even obviously use of computer imagery and things like that. But just a really winning film. If it has a flaw, it does have a flaw. And I say if, it does have a flaw. And that is occasionally it takes this really unnecessary diversion into quite young skewing slapstick humour, which feels like the film itself doesn't quite have the confidence that it should in its already quite interesting and unique tone that works for all ages. Like, children can watch this without the slapstick moment and really be taken in by it. So it's a gorgeous looking animated film, and would be the kind of thing where I think if it weren't for that very jarring occasional just, veer toward more slapstick child, I would argue specifically child-friendly fare, this occasionally this character has to get into a comedic scrap, and it's like, why are you doing this? The film, And if you didn't have that, I think you'd be looking at a film that a year from now you would see as, or maybe even right now, would have been a contender for something like Best Animated Feature, because of just how unique and how moving it is, and actually just how thoughtful and sort of nuanced it is for, I'd say, an all-age friendly animated film. But, of course, Stephen Fry, I mean, you presumably you're as big an institutionalized fan of Stephen Fry as I am.
Oh, absolutely. There's just something about Stephen Fry. I just think he's brilliant in every sense. And like I say, his voice is just warm and recognisable, and it just feels really lovely to hear him kind of, I guess, is he like narrating it by the sounds of it?
There's a little bit of narration at the beginning and end, but it is just a straight-through film otherwise. And, I mean, that warm and friendly appeal, I think, as well, I find with Matt Berry whenever he turns up in it as the Pope. And because he just has that distinctive voice. Incidentally, he does get to refer to the French as, I think it's brie-eating Nancy boys, I think he calls them. But he does it in that unique Matt Berry brie-eating, kind of what we do in the Shadows, Laszlo kind of voice. That tone unique unto him. But really interesting and really interesting film with a really charming voice cast and a really whimsical, really captivating style of, styles plural, of animation. I really loved it. I didn't expect it.
How does that work, though, going from one style of animation to another? Because I feel like if I'm watching an animated movie, to go from, something, that is in one way to then suddenly go to another, it would be disjointed to me. So how do they flow?
No, the film has it keeps its central stop motion aesthetic for the bulk of it, but every now and again, if there's a dream sequence, for instance, or Leonardo starts telling us a story, and we have to be shown exposition, we're shown the exposition for it as a hand-drawn bit of parchment that's literally been drawn before our eyes, and it's nowhere near as revolutionary in its combination of animation styles as, for instance, one of the Spider-Verse movies, in which you're literally looking at several, a dozen different styles simultaneously. It's nothing quite that unusual. It is a bit more traditional in that way, but it does hop over from different. If you've got a present day sequence, then there's a flashback, for instance. That can then be the hand drawn bit, or so on and so forth. I say it works. It's way less weird than it sounds. It sounds one of those things that sounds weird on paper, rather like the concept, but it's really good. It's really captivating. I loved it. I would suggest this is one that you could watch with Albert, definitely.
Right, okay. I was about to say, did you feel like you learned something? Because you said at the start that it's kind of almost a biopic of Leonardo da Vinci. Would you feel confident after watching this movie that you could go into a room full of toffs and talk about art?
I'll be really honest. I don't know the story of Da Vinci, like his biopic story. I didn't know that, because I don't think most people do, to be honest. We tend to, as a culture, we just, Leonardo da Vinci, the inventor, did the Mona Lisa.
Exactly.
Flying, appeared in a couple of Star Trek episodes. Yeah, I'm kidding. Actually, as a hologram. That's actually true as well. It's John Rhys-Davies from Gimli from the Lord of the Rings trilogy is Leonardo da Vinci because I was jokingly going around after the press show, like, oh well, Stephen Fry is now my second favorite fictional Da Vinci after Star Trek Voyager. But there was a side to there was a lot of the story of Leonardo that I did not know. And the movie does present itself as if it is, because it says at the beginning, there's text on the screen that says, this is based on the actual life of Leonardo da Vinci. Now, I've not gotten a chance to look into it as yet, but I would be interested to see how faithful to the story this is. It seems that the film presents itself as if it is really tying into things that really happen, as if there are specific events and they've sort of invented a fictional narrative around it, which really works, I think.
That's something that would get me to watch it, actually, for that reason, because I feel like I'd learned something afterwards, and I'm always up for that. But if you want to go and check it out, you can. The Inventor is in cinemas from today. Okay, still to come, Ricky Stanicky. We'll see what Van thought of that next. All right, we'll see you in a sec.
Now it's time for a segment we like to call Off-Screen Pays the Bills. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Van. So, what's going on?
Ain't nothing going on but the rent. You know how it is. And so it's a big thanks to our sponsors this week at the Art of Manliness podcast. The podcast series hosted by Brett McKay and enjoyed by 2.5 million listeners every month, bringing you the very best insights from experts all around the world on self-improvement, philosophy, practical skills, history, and more. It's an incredibly diverse show. There are episodes about health and fitness, sibling dynamics, family life, mental health. It's got all sorts, all in under an hour, and all killer, no filler. You'll come away from every episode of the Art of Manliness podcast with a laundry list of ideas and ways to improve your life. That's why it ranks in the top 1% of shows on Spotify, where you can listen now, along with Apple Podcasts and all good podcast players. So check out Brett and the Art of Manliness podcast. I myself am enjoying an episode about the rise of the American Mafia at the moment, and a big thanks to our sponsors this week at the Art of Manliness podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. We've got 2 movies left to review. Let's dive straight in with Ricky Stanicky. I love the synopsis to this because it reminds me of the sort of thing I would have done as a kid.
Exactly that. So, through a sort of period piece prologue, I think it's set in like the early 2000s or so, we are introduced to our main protagonists as 3 young boys, I think basically like 10 or 12 years old, who get in trouble one night and blame a fictional 4th friend. So they invent a 4th friend named Ricky Stanicky, who they blame for. I think they accidentally start a fire and they leave like underwear behind with his name written in it, kind of thing. So, flash forward in time a couple decades, and they are now in their adult years. Leader of the group is Zac Efron, for instance, and they all have, partners and jobs and lives and things. But, however, whenever they want to escape, whenever they want to get away from the wives, go to a gig or something like that, what they do is they have one of them claim to be Ricky Stanicky and have a crisis. So they've kept this fictional friend going. And at the very start of the movie, they fake a cancer call. They fake a cancer treatment for Ricky Stanicky that necessitates them having to go away and be with him for a few days and support him, so that they can go and see a DJ set at a casino, for instance. Fly to a casino and go to a DJ set. They don't. However, whilst they're there, they turn all their phones off so that they can't be tracked by their wives. And this means that they're unreachable when one of them goes into labour and delivers their child. So they get in trouble, and the family start, of course, asking questions. All of this is the first couple of minutes. Right. They get in trouble and are basically sort of forced to present a real Ricky Stanicky, lest they otherwise be outed for the frankly billions of lies that they have told. However, on their journey to the casino, they also happened upon this sort of alcoholic, washed-up actor, played by John Cena. Whose name is Rod. I'm not going to say more than that about his name. You will have to watch the movie because it's quite a hilarious stage show that he actually puts on. A rock show. In fact, rock is in the name, as are the words hard and rod. So you can piece that together for yourself. He presents a sexually explicit rock cover show. It has to be seen to be believed. And they basically hire him to play this fictional friend to show up for basically for the setup for their upcoming wedding. So, it's for a bris. It's for the Jewish circumcision ceremony. It's for a bris to show up for this. Okay, I've got a clip for you. This is the fictional Ricky Stanicky having literally been brought to life by John Cena and introduced to the family.
Why are you grilling my mom? She's not on trial.
Because I want you to admit that Ricky Stanicky does not exist.
Hey, mashpucha! Let's get down to business. Oh, yes! Yes! We made it! Boys are back! Yes! All right. Jackie!
Ricky?
Oh, you look unbelievable.
Oh.
You're still a MILF.
Oh, my God. Look at you. Oh, you haven't changed a bit.
The mystery man in the flesh.
Well, churn my butter with a slippery stick. I finally get to meet Aaron Harford. You're even more beautiful in person than the pictures Dean's always sending me.
You sent him pictures of me?
Oh, tasteful, of course. Even the nudes.
I mean, firstly, I just think I'd really enjoy this. I must say, Ricky Stanicky, what a ridiculous name to come up with as a fake person, because it's quite obviously fake with that kind of name. Secondly, it reminds me of The Hangover. I feel like it's got Hangover vibes.
Yeah, very much in that sort of way. I think it would like to be. It's nowhere near... For one thing, it's not quite as surprising as The Hangover was the first time you saw it. Cena, obviously, is perfectly cast in this. Because, I mean, we've known for a while now that John Cena is kind of one of the funniest guys in the business these days. And I say that I was a big fan of him back in 2015 when he first starred in Sisters with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, which is a movie I will absolutely revisit soon. I love that movie. Very underrated. But it's a bit by the numbers. That's kind of the problem with it. It's brought to us by Peter Farrelly, by the director Peter Farrelly of the Farrelly brothers, of Dumb and Dumber, of Something About Mary fame, the Farrelly brothers. Also, notably, director of Best Picture winner Green Book. So this is kind of a weird return to the comedy genre from Peter Farrelly. Now, I thought he'd sort of ascended above this now, but yeah, this is, I think, though, going to appeal to the kind of audience that flocked to The Hangover. If you're looking for a sort of an old-fashioned R-rated for the boys, Farrelly Brothers era kind of comedy, yeah, this will fit the bill. But it is exactly as formulaic as it sounds. Like you know what the plot developments are going to be pretty much the minute you get the concept laid out for you. Like, okay, so let me guess, and yeah, it all comes to pass. But Cena and Zac Efron and the rest of the gang, they all kind of work off of each other nicely enough that it powers through. I really enjoyed, in particular, there's a supporting role as the boss. They have William H. Macy. And there's an ongoing gag about a thing he does with his hands when he's talking that is just genius. And it's one of those things you'll get it in the trailer. It's worth noting, but I think you'd enjoy the film. You're not going to be blown away by it. And it's not going to be like one of your favourite comedies ever. or anything like that. And it's certainly not up to the pedigree of the Farrelly brothers sort of pre-2000s, I would say. Like, anything from sort of Me, Myself and Irene and before is a cut above this. But as a made-for-streaming throwback R-rated comedy, yeah, fair play. Fair play. Can't fault it. I mean, unsurprising, but a lot of those movies weren't. I mean, no one was going into Old School expecting Citizen Kane, and no one was going into The Hangover expecting Rashomon. So, yeah, enjoy. You know, I think you'll have a good time.
I got the trailer on rolling on mute while we're chatting, and some of the scenes that are coming up that I'm seeing from the corner of my eye, I do think I'll be laughing, if nothing else, through this.
You really will. I think you'll have some chuckles. I think you'd go easier on it than I would. I think I'm maybe a bit more jaded than you are, but I think you'd really enjoy it. I think you would, to be fair. And that's part, it's on Prime, so it's not like you have to go out for it.
Yeah, well, exactly that. If you already subscribed to it, it's free, essentially, so you can watch it yourself whenever you like. Ricky Stanicky on Prime Video from, well, yesterday, actually, but so you can watch it tonight if you want. Dive in. All right, so I've got to try and get this name right again. I'm going to get it wrong. The last movie we're going to look at is High and Low, John Galliano.
Yeah, you got it. See? We got there in the end.
Yay! We'll see what Van thought of that one in just a second. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen for one last ride. We are going to look at High and Low, John Galliano. I know absolutely nothing about this, so you're going to have to start from the top, Van.
Yeah, so this is obviously a documentary about the legendary fashion designer John Galliano, who basically rose from, you know, art school to not revolutionise, but he is kind of one of the defining voices of what to us at our age, you know, obviously we're both in our 40s, so obviously to us, what we would define as peak fashion, which is kind of the late 90s and early 2000s, you know, when supermodels were an unstoppable force in global pop culture, not quite as faded as they are today with the rise of influencers and sort of reliance on Hollywood stars, for instance, but back in the actual model days, you know, when Kate Moss and Naomi Campbell were a thing. Like that era. He was the designer. He was Kate Moss's go-to designer. And this is the story of, obviously, his rise and then, of course, his subsequent fall. Because several years ago, he was filmed in a drunken anti-Semitic rant that, well, we were led to believe at the time had destroyed his career. It saw him vilified before the world, prosecuted, and forced to attempt to atone, really, and rehab his image, which we get some exploration of towards the end of this. Have a listen.
We wanted to be part of that magic. I would see a lot of designers under pressure.
The shows were bigger, the stars were bigger, the attention was more.
After every collection, he would sit there and drink.
He was a bad drunk, really want to get wasted.
He got banned from about 20 hotels. He was in the lift at the Ritz with no clothes on, and he was growling, telling everyone he was a liar.
He started to say ugly things about people.
I just thought, boy, that guy's unhappy.
Disgraced fashion designer John Galliano is in court today, facing charges of anti-Semitic behaviour.
Wow, I mean, what a career. And, I mean, he sounds a bit kind of like a cross between a fashion designer and a rock star from some of the things that he's done in his past.
That's very much, now you've got it right on the head there. That is it. Fashion designer, because he was the rock star fashion designer. Like, he, front and centre, there are very few fashion designers, I think, in history, that if you showed a photo of them to someone, they may actually know who that is. Like, you know, I wouldn't be able to tell you what Hugo Boss looked like with a gun to my head, but I could tell you what John Galliano or Calvin Klein looked like. You know, there are very few. It's one of those things. It's kind of like film directors in that way. Film directors have it, where you could show a picture of Spielberg or Tarantino to someone, and a lot of people would know who they are. Show them a picture of David Fincher, slightly less so. And that's very much the case with Galliano and fashion designers. Now, it's a fascinating documentary. It's a bit of a puff piece for the most part. I mean, the rise stuff is very much of the puff piece guild. Like, this hasn't got enough fun to send it in the direction of something like Live Forever, The Rise and Fall of Britpop, for instance, which I know you've seen several dozen times. But what a doc. What a doc that is.
Great doc. Yeah, worth watching.
This is a bit more of a puff piece than that, and doesn't have anywhere near the bite, for instance, of Live Forever. It's not a revolutionary doc in the sense of something like Amy, where it's like stylistically quite interesting as well. It's not like that. And so you go through the puff piece stage, and then you get to about the last 20 minutes, and then for me, this thing jumped the shark. Good and hard, because it tries to be about the fall at that stage. It includes, for instance, the footage, the quite now famous footage of Galliano's rant, which is horrible. It's truly horrible. And then you are subjected to his rehabilitation, which saw him consulting with the only Jewish scholar willing to actually talk to him. He was turned away. Must be some sort of crime spree going on outside
the
studio here.
What's going on? Have you moved to the Bronx?
I couldn't afford to live in the Bronx, believe me. Have you seen rent prices in the Bronx? Anyway, right. Right. But yeah, there was only one Jewish scholar willing to talk to him. He was turned away by quite a few. And, made to literally learn his actual lesson, like with books lesson, only to then unravel it by appearing in a sort of Hasidic outfit that it seemed to be sort of mocking of the Jewish faith. It was a very ill-advised move. But when you get to this stage, the documentary noticeably shuffles slightly more in the direction of his mates, all of whom basically go to bat with the exact same argument, an argument which makes no sense whatsoever. So, for instance, you get Naomi Campbell saying, "Oh, I've not seen the footage. No, I've not seen the clip because my friend would never say that." To which you have to say, "Right, Naomi, I know you're a model and not a Rhodes Scholar, but if the clip's there, he would. The clip you're saying you wouldn't watch, kind of, and you get this from all of them, which is." Oh, okay. As you could hear from the actual clip that we played, the last sort of 10 or 15 seconds of that were people talking about his sort of, aggressive behaviour. Believe me, that's about the extent of what you get in the documentary itself. There didn't seem to be that much negative criticism from any of his peers to be found to include. So the bit you heard in our clip, that's pretty much the extent of what you get in the film. And that's where, again, you're thinking, oh, okay, the puff piece has gotten slightly too inflated now. I see what this is. Okay, so there's really no objectivity to that. And I thought, that's where it falls apart for me. Other than that, I was going along with and enjoying some of the puff piece stuff, because it was a throwback to the heyday.
Obviously, as you mentioned, a lot of this is based and focused on his downfall, but does it go far back enough at the beginning to show you his uprising and how he did it?
Oh, yeah, believe me, most of the runtime, there's only about 100 minutes, and you would get about 80 of it just about, and then he came from here and he did this, and he's awesome, and occasionally he'd get drunk and destroy a hotel room because he was annoyed. And I will say, by the way, putting this out the week that the story about Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye came out is just unintentional gold, because FYI, who didn't know that guy was a pain in the ass? So yeah, you get a lot of the rise. The problem is the fall is only the last 20 minutes. They don't do anything really with it. Galliano himself is not quite as apologetic as he really should be. And yeah, I mean, let's say one for the fans only, but I can't imagine he has that many left, surely.
Maybe one for the people who are a bit nosy and want to be fascinated by his life story, I suppose, as well, because that's kind of the bench that I sit on with this. But just to go back to the very start when you talked about how big a designer he was, it goes to show how much fashion I'm into, because I've never heard of him before now.
Well, to be fair, I don't imagine there are many runways that you've been captivated by in your time, other than for the lady walking them, to be fair, because I know I'm exactly as bad. I have no fashion sense. What are you talking about?
Oh, brilliant. Well, high and low, John Galliano. If you do want to watch it, it's in cinemas from today. So go and have a little search and you'll find. Okay, well, before we finish, let's have a little look at some of the movies that are coming up next week.
Before you do, I haven't filled that bit of the script in. I messed that up.
I just noticed. I just noticed because I was like, Ricky Stanicky. Well, we've just done that one, so that's definitely not on next week's list, is it?
No, it's not. However, next week, one that I am really looking forward to, and this is kind of the biggie of next week, is Drive Away Dolls, which is the new movie from one of the Coen brothers. Is it Ethan Coen? I can't remember if it's Ethan or Joel Coen. Oh, Ethan Coen. Ethan Coen has written this, I believe, co-written with his partner as well, and is an LGBT sort of younger skewing Thelma and Louise type movie. So that is the big
awesome.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
Amazing. Well, of course, that is all we've got time for this week. So thank you for joining us. We will return next week. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Ben Connor, and we shall return.